Hello and welcome to lesson 73 of the Learning Guitar series. In this particular lesson we're going to look at the fifth mode of melodic minor, and it is called Mixolydian flat 6. Let's dive straight into it and let's look at the PDF that comes with this lesson. So the Mixolydian flat 6 is the fifth mode of melodic minor and presents the following intervals: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. And let's look straight to where is that coming from. So now here I have a melodic minor, a C melodic minor. In fact, the intervals is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, major 7. The fifth mode will start from G, so let me write the same scale, but I'm just going to start from G and go all the way around. So you have G, A, B, C, D, E flat, and F. Now, if I look at the intervals generating, considering relative to G as a root note, now we know that A is the second, B is the third, C is the fourth, D is the fifth, E flat is the flat 6, and F is the flat 7. Hence the interval I just described to you. Already the name implies how it is basically a Mixolydian scale, the fifth degree of the major mode, which we already done with the flat and 6. Let's write down a G Mixolydian. G Mixolydian would be G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And in fact, Mixolydian in terms of intervals is spelled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and flat 7. So as you can see, the only difference in between the Mixolydian flat 6 and Mixolydian is literally here. So as such, can be applied to dominant 7 chords such as 7 flat 13, 11, 11 flat 13, and 9 flat 13, and 9 and 7. And you might already ask, okay, why 11, why 9? We know about the flat 13, obviously, because we just mentioned it. Let's have a look. So I'm going to delete this for a second. And let's look now at G Mixolydian flat 6 as a scale. E flat and F. This is obviously the horizontal structure. By now you should know what that means. So basically like a scale. 4, 5, flat 6, and flat 7. Now let's look at the vertical structure. So the same scale but spelled as an arpeggio. And there we go G, B, D, F, A, C, E flat, and then we're back to G. If we look at now the intervals in a vertical manner, we see, okay, that's the root note. Fair enough. That's a third, we know that. That's a fifth. F is the flat 7. A is the second, but we're looking at it an octave higher, so it's a 9. C is the 11, because it's the fourth, but an octave higher. And obviously E flat is the flat 6, and because it's an octave higher, it's flat 13. That's the reason why I say, in the PDF, we mentioned G7 or G9 or G11, and of course G7 with a flat 13, G9 with a flat 13, or G11 with a flat 13. Being a dominant 7 related mode, it can be used to create tension, which is always in one chord. We've seen this already when we've done Lydian dominant or other kind of scales that apply to a dominant chord. And you can replace Mixolydian and alters in terms of adding a flat 6. Bear in mind that the difference is actually just one note, the flat 6. Also bear in mind that flat 6 and sharp 5 are the same note. Hence it is worth noticing that within the scale intervals we also find the following arpeggio: 1, 3, sharp 5, 1, 3, sharp 5, flat 7. Okay, let's clarify this. If you think of the scale, I'll do it in G. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this note can take two names. Flat 6 and sharp 5 is exactly the same note. It's still this note. In a way, the fact of thinking sharp 5 is because, of course, 1, 3, #5 is an augmented triad. You might recognize it as an augmented triad if I wrote 1-3 flat 6. Bizarrely, you might not realize that that's what's happening. Okay? And the second concept is, okay, if I have 1-3 #5 flat 7, now I have another type of arpeggio beside the normal Mixolydian. Mixolydian arpeggio would be 1-3-5 flat 7, 1-3-5 flat 7, 1. And we've seen this when we studied the Mixolydian mode within the major modes. So, okay, now I can add something else, like in terms of cage system, we see in the last lesson that we added a dominant 7 flat 5 arpeggio, so 1-3 flat 5 flat 7 for the Lydian dominant mode. And now for the Mixolydian flat 6, we can take this opportunity to also study another arpeggio, which is 1-3 #5 flat 7, 1-3 #5 flat 7. Which is a nice sounding arpeggio, and obviously goes on top of that. This will still be the chord. So as you will see in the PDF at some point when we look at the chords, sometimes I'm literally notating it as a flat 6, sometimes as a flat 13, and sometimes as a #5, because, say, if you see a chord which is 7 #5, still you can kind of use it in this scale. Don't forget that this particular scale contains both the 5th and the flat 6, so both the 5th and the #5. This is Mixolydian flat 6, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, #5, flat 7, root note, and then. If we want to look at it from point of view of sound, let me loop out. I'll just freeze a dominant 7 chord, so G7. And this is the sound of Mixolydian, okay? And of course it works, right? Now it's very interesting. This Mixolydian #5, although it's one note difference, it kind of creates a totally different character. As you can hear, and I encourage you to try, although it's one note difference, you really get a very different character out of it compared to just Mixolydian. Let's go back to the PDF. The modal arpeggio, as we have seen, spells 1-3-5 flat 7, 9-11, and flat 13. From it we can gather that beside the basic dominant 7 arpeggio, 1-3-5 flat 7, which we already studied Mixolydian, we can further develop the sound of chords and melody using 9-11 and flat 13. At the end of the day, basically, in particular 9-11 are in common with Mixolydian and Mixolydian flat 6 modes, and it is the presence of flat 7 and flat 13 that really creates the Mixolydian flat 6 sound. And if you scroll through the PDF, here you have the scales, and as usual, these are the same fingerings as we've done in melodic minor, they're just displaced, okay? And here, as you can see, I wrote flat 6 most of the time, okay, as opposed to #5, just not to create too much confusion. Here we have the Mixolydian flat 6, 7 #5 arpeggios. In this case, I prefer to use the #5, and it's the one I mentioned, basically like 1-3 #5 flat 7, applied to the cage system. These white dots you see are basically alternative fingerings. So if you don't like the third ear, there is a third ear, or if you don't like the #5 ear, there is one here, and the same can be said for the rest of the necks. And here is the modal arpeggio. And as usual, the modal arpeggio is very comfortable for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it spells the entire mode. 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, flat 13, 1. And again, if I put the dominant 7 chord, And as we have done in previous lesson, the modular arpeggio kind of gives us a couple of informations which are quite relevant, both from an arpeggio's point of view, from an harmonic point of view in terms of chords, because from it we can analyze the triads and extended triad contained in it. In other words, it's a bit like playing the modular arpeggio, but instead of playing it this way, if I play it in group of 3 notes at a time, I can literally spell the triads within. What that means is, and this is a G triad, the G major triad. Now I'm playing the second 3 note of that vertical structure, and this is B half diminished. And this is D minor. This is F major. This is A half diminished. And this is C minor. Okay? And then we have E flat augmented. So in other words, I'm looking at the triads within by playing this. And the same thing I can do with a group of 4 notes. And I have extended type of triads. And in this case, of course, G7, B half diminished, D minor, this is F7, this is A half diminished, and this is C minor major 7. Let's look at it on an Excel spreadsheet so you'll see where I'm going with the idea of analyzing the modular arpeggio to get, triads and extended triad. We've done this before, but, we're doing this for each mode because there is some very interesting thing coming out of it. So let's take the vertical structure for a second. So I'm going to delete this. We're not going to need it now, and we can delete this. And we're going to divide it in triads and extended triads. So GBD, we know that's G major triad, obviously. If I go for 3, 5, and flat 7, if I go for this is a B diminished. Okay, because this is a flat 3 and this is a flat 3. D, F, and A, so 5, flat 7, and 9, gives me D minor. F, A, and C, so flat 7, 9, and 11, gives me F major. And already I'm sure you're going to notice this. Sometimes on paper you notice things which you can then try on the neck, which are less obvious when you're just playing on the neck like I did before. You see it on paper and then you try it. A, C, and E flat, so 9, 11, and flat 13. And this is interesting, obviously, because this is basically the upper structure. And this is A diminished. And then I have C, E flat, and G, so I'm back to the root note, right? C, E flat, and G spells C minor. And now you can see another interesting phenomenon, which is this D minor, C minor, or G major, F major. Okay, if I play, say I'm going to try it in a second, I'm going to play it to you in a second so you hear it. I'm going to put the root note of G, I'm just going to loop that. But in terms of chords, or in terms of arpeggios, I'm going to use a G triad and then go a tone down to F. And just alternate those two. Or D minor, C minor. If I play G, I'm just playing 1, 3, 5 on that chord. If I play F, I'm playing flat 7, 9, and 11. And in that sense, I'm not really exploiting the Mixolydian flat 6 mode because I'm not really using the flat 13, which kind of characterizes that mode. But if I do D minor, now I have this part of the structure, 5, flat 7, 9. And for C minor, the rest of the extensions. So basically, I'm skipping the third here. I'm playing 6 notes. I'm playing 6 notes out of the scale. I'm jumping the third, So let's hear what it sounds like. So if I'm just for D minor, I can play D minor. And and C minor. And it's a very interesting sound, if you ask me. It's basically this. I want to kind of point your attention to this last thing I was doing. And it was this particular pattern here. And what it is basically the G minor and D minor combined. So here you have C minor, D minor, yeah. C, D, so the root note. Then you have the fifth of that. Then you have another root note. Then you have the minor third. Then you're back to the fifths. So I'm combining basically this and this. And I could have done it also this way. Let me show it to you on paper so you see what I mean, because this is interesting. And it's basically combining these two triads, D minor and C minor, but kind of in a skylic manner. Let me show you. So here I have a diagram, and I'm going to show it to you. So what I did there around fret 10 and 12. So here is a D minor arpeggio, triadic arpeggio, starting from fret 10, obviously. And here it's a C minor triad arpeggio, starting from fret 8. So what I was doing, basically I was combining, symmetrically, say these two notes, 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 these two notes. So you end up with almost like a 2-note per string kind of pattern, or you could use these two notes, these two notes, these two notes, these two notes. Don't forget, I'm playing this over G7, G dominant. So in other words, this is the root note. And as you can see, what I'm using is 6 notes out of 7 notes of the scale. What's missing is the third. As you can see, 1, 2, 3 is missing, 4, 5, flat 6, so sharp 5, flat 7. Same thing, sharp 5, flat 7, 1, 2, 4, 5. And it's a very, if I remove this, you see you have a very symmetrical kind of pattern, okay? And that's basically the idea. I'm basically combining 2 arpeggios, but I'm moving them as 2 notes per string pattern, almost like if it was a scale, which can be, again, a different way of thinking. It can be interesting. So I'll play to you again like a few bars so you see what I mean. And as you can see, that can be an interesting thing, and you want to map it out across, obviously, across the entire neck of the guitar, and you'll see several of these kind of patterns. Now let's look at the extended triads. So instead of using a group of 3 notes, we're going to use a group of 4 notes. In this case, G, B, D, F, so 1, 3, flat 5, flat 7, obviously spelled G7. B, D, F, and A spells B minor 7, flat 5. D, F, A, C, so 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, this is D minor 7. F, A, C, E flat, that's an interesting one because it spells F7. And I think the eagle-eyed amongst you already noticed this. Basically 2 dominant 7 chords, a tone apart. And there is more to it. A, C, E flat, G spells A minor 7, flat 5. And C, E flat, G, B, so I'm extending on this side, E, C, E flat, G, and then B, gives me C minor, major 7. Now, if I take these 2 extended triad, which are basically a tone from each other, G gives me these intervals here, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, fully Mixolydian. And if I combine it with the F7, I get basically just the upper stretcher, literally. Okay, and now again, that can be very interesting in terms of bouncing back and forth in between the 2. So of course I have a chord which is G7, and whenever I want to play inside, okay, the arpeggio for G7 will work, and of course the Mixolydian scale. But I can also superimpose an F7 on it, and it's going to sound like this. This is G7, this is F7, and now I'm playing. And so as you can see, you can get all sorts of interesting harmonic combinations. So in a way, when you're practicing this particular scale, and of course the arpeggios, the modal arpeggio, and everything that comes with it, but by studying a triads and extended triad, you come across a solution which makes understanding and retaining and, more importantly, using the mode more possible and accessible. Sometimes people think of melodic minor mode as something like only jazz players are supposed to use, and of course they do, you know. But as you notice, like that, the last thing I did, which wasn't planned, it's an interesting combination of chords, and it gives you an interesting sound. You know, you might use it for composing. Let's look at the last part of the PDFs. So after the modal arpeggios, what you have is chords divided by shapes. Obviously, this is the shape of E, and as usual, black dots is, you know, is where you want to put your fingers, obviously, and the 1 is for reference, unless it's dotted black. And all these chords will contain a sharp 5. So here is shape of D, shape of C, shape of A, and shape of G. Of course, all those chords contain the sharp 5, and the reason being that chords that didn't, we already studied them when we did Mixolydian. So like, in a way, the peculiar peculiarity of this particular mode is the sharp 5 or flat 6, and we wanted to include it. Now, last but not least, this idea of triads, augmented triads. We saw that 1-3 sharp 5 is contained in the scale, okay? It's the 1-3 flat 6. And that opens the door to augmented triads. And we know that augmented triads, I mean, we haven't studied in this particular course, we haven't done yet whole tone scales and augmented and all that. But nevertheless, some of you already know that augmented triads move symmetrically in intervals of 2-tone, which means, as you can see, it's basically 2 inversions, but the fingering doesn't change, which means that I can use those arpeggios, the augmented arpeggios, again over the dominant 7 chord when I'm applying this mode, because I'm adding the flat 6. This is the augmented triad, another inversion of it. Right? I have all this sound. And the property that comes with it. I hope everything is clear, and this is an interesting mode which I hope you will enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If anything, I hope you find it informative. As always, if you have any question, feel free to post it. And well, enjoy the material, and until next time.